Buying a home in Charlotte has become almost impossible because buyers, we hear you. The market is so tough right now, especially in Charlotte. The best homes are flying off the market. The interest rates are higher. The inventory is as low as we've ever seen. So what do you do to get a leg up in a market like this? Let's talk about it. So let's break this into 3 different parts. 1, what to do before you buy a home. 2, what you do when you actually find a house that you want to buy. And 3, what to do once you get that house. So before you buy a home, one of the biggest things that you can do is get pre-approved. You have to get pre-approved or be able to show an agent proof of funds before you can start going on showings. Why is that? The reason for getting pre-approved is because you really need to know when you're going to look at houses, what that is going to look like financially. You want to know what your cash to close or down payment is going to look like, and you really want to know what the monthly payments are going to look like on that home before you even go look at it and fall in love with it. The other reason why it's important is because then when you do go find a house, having that pre-approval is one less step that you're gonna have to go through when you actually find the house that you like. One little pro tip for pre-approvals. Get with a lender that can actually send you estimated payments quickly at any time of the day. What that will do is it will help you make a very educated decision when you go see the home because you know what it's gonna look like financially to live there if you're gonna be comfortable living in that home, making those payments. The other big thing to think about before buying a house is what down payment you're comfortable with, or ultimately how much cash you are comfortable giving up or spending or investing for closing, right? It's not just down payment. You have down payment, you have closing costs, you have escrows that you're gonna be paying for. So ultimately, cash to close is the big one. But down payment is the one that's most talked about, and a lot of people talk about making sure you have 20% to put down. Nowadays, it's not so bad if you don't have 20% to put down because it might be a no-brainer to put 10% down instead of 20% down sometimes. Let's say you're buying a $500,000 house, 10% is $50,000. And let's just hypothetically say that the bank is gonna charge you $50 a month for that PMI. So for $50 a month, you can keep $50,000 in the bank to buy furniture, to invest in other investments. There's a lot that you can do with $50,000. So sometimes it's a no-brainer to put less than 20% down. The last piece before buying a home is actually finding a good agent. I might know one, but in all seriousness, what you need to do is make sure you find an agent that you're gonna like working with. You wanna find an agent who's also going to advocate for you. You wanna find an agent who is gonna communicate well with you. You wanna find an agent who's going to communicate well with other agents as well. Because if agents can't communicate, you're never gonna get a house. Next in the process, let's say you've got the agent lined up, you've got the lender lined up. Now you wanna start looking at houses. This is the fun part. Here's what you need to expect when you're actually looking at houses. Not every single day are you gonna see a house come up for sale. Not every house that comes up for sale is gonna be the right house for you. But when it is, you need to be ready to go see it and you need to be ready to offer on it quickly. That's why it's very important to have a good agent and it's very important to have a lender in your back pocket so that you're comfortable offering on that home quickly because you know what it's gonna look like financially if you were to buy that house. On the flip side of moving quickly with that is you need to be patient. Again, not every single day and not every single week are there gonna be houses that are gonna come up that are gonna look attractive to you. And so you need to be patient when it comes to this process because you never know when the right house is gonna come up, but you'll get that feeling when you're in there. And the right agent is never gonna push you into a home. The right agent is here to reassure you of the decisions you are already going to make. When it comes to actually being on the showings, a good agent will be able to pick up on your must-haves and your nice-to-haves. And that will help them curate the homes that you're gonna start seeing so that you can find the right home for you. Part 2, you found the house. You went to see it on a Friday night or Saturday morning and you fell in love with it. It's the perfect house. It's the house. You have to have it. Now what? So the first thing that you're gonna wanna do once you find the house is you're going to want to review the disclosures. Typically in North Carolina, there's a property disclosure, there's a mineral oil and gas rights disclosure, and sometimes depending on the age of the property, there's a lead-based paint disclosure. And if it's a condo or townhome, there may be an owner's association or HOA disclosure as well. All of those things are gonna tell you a lot about the house. Next up is the terms in the offer. This is going to be the biggest part, right? Purchase price, due diligence amount, earnest money deposit, due diligence period, closing date. If you want a seller credit, do you want to give the seller a lease back? Are you going to put in an appraisal addendum and waive the appraisal? All of these things go into that one document that you're going to submit to the seller. And let's go through those. So to start, purchase price, pretty self-explanatory. It's what you're going to pay for the home. The next one gets a little confusing and is very specific for North Carolina, which is due diligence fee and earnest money deposit. These are huge. Due diligence fee is a non-refundable deposit, and I'll repeat that again, non-refundable. It is a deposit that you're going to give to the seller as soon as you go under contract. You will get that money credited back to you at closing, but if you walk away from the transaction for any reason, you forfeit that money. That's why it's very heavily weighed in your offer. The second piece is the earnest money deposit. That's a check that you're going to write to the escrow agent. Typically in North Carolina, the closing attorney. They're going to open the escrow account with that earnest money deposit. It's due within 5 days of going under contract. It's essentially good faith money. You're eligible to get that returned to you if you were to terminate in a transaction prior to the due diligence period expiring, which leads me into the next point, the due diligence period. This is the time where you're going to do the inspection. You're going to have the appraisal done. The attorney's going to review the title history on the home. All of this stuff is when you can do your due diligence on the home. This entire period is when you want to do the inspection and negotiate repairs. All of those things you're going to want to negotiate before the due diligence period is over, because at 5 o'clock on the day that that due diligence period expires, your earnest money becomes non-refundable as well. A lot of people then ask, well, why would I walk away? What's a typical reason for walking away from a transaction? Two of the big ones, if the appraisal comes in super low, or if the inspection comes back pretty bad and you're not able to negotiate the repairs that you feel like you need with the seller. Next down the list on the offer to purchase, closing date. Pretty self-explanatory. It's the day that you're going to close on the home. What has to happen with closing in no particular order is the seller has to sign their closing documents, the buyer has to sign their closing documents, the buyer has to wire in their closing costs, and the buyer's lender, if there is one, has to send in the amount for the loan. Once the attorney has all of those things, then they can send it to the county to get recorded, and then you officially will own the home. You can get the keys and you're done. So you got the house. Congratulations, Mazel Tov, you did it. You got the house. Now what? First step, you're gonna write the due diligence check to the seller and write the earnest money check to the closing attorney. Then you schedule the inspection, and typically your lender at the same time is gonna order the appraisal. All of those things are gonna happen really fast. So to round out the due diligence period, you've done the inspection, you've gotten the appraisal back, you've started negotiating the repairs, whether you want repairs done or you get a credit. Once you're able to come to terms on the repair negotiations and the inspection, and the appraisal's been done, and you get to the end of the due diligence period, at that point, you're kind of sitting tight until closing. Once we get closer to closing, the attorney's gonna send out a closing disclosure, and that's gonna start telling you what you're gonna owe at closing. Once you get the final closing disclosure, the attorney will then send you their wiring instructions. Then when you get to the closing table, make sure you bring your driver's license, make sure that you're excited to actually close on the home, and be prepared to sign your life away. So as you can see, there are a lot of things that go into the home buying process, especially here in North Carolina and in Charlotte specifically. When that time comes, make sure that you talk to the right agent and make sure you have the right lender on your side helping you out with finding a home. It can be very overwhelming, it can be very daunting. I genuinely try to make this process as least intimidating as possible because it needs to be a fun process, and we are able to do that because you're prepared. So if you have any more questions about buying a home, first, be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. It helps me out a ton. And second, reach out. I'm happy to talk about it. There's no such thing as a dumb question because it's your house, your investment, and it's the place you are choosing to live your life.